everyone, on today's episode of Huber Hype, we're blowing it out of the goddamn airlock. In today's episode, we're talking about Alien Isolation. Even though it came out more than 6 months ago, you may be wondering, why are we talking about this now? How is this even relevant? 2 reasons. When this game came out, I was just crushed under the weight of my own backlog. You know, I had it pre-ordered, I was ready to hop into the Alien franchise, huge fan to begin with, and just, I was so close to finishing whatever game I was on. I think it was The Evil Within at the time. I said, oh, let me just finish this, then I'll move on to Alien. More things come, reviews, life commitments, bills, family issues, life happens, missed it, slid under the radar. Number 2, internal controversy from my esteemed colleagues, Brandon Jones, Ian Hink, and Ben Moore. Their negative reaction to this game was poison to my psyche and my hype, and I was comfortable just letting the game sit on my shelf for months, but no more. So on today's episode, we are gonna talk about why this game is a masterpiece. Stealth. Now this is predominantly a stealth game. They give you weapons, but you want to avoid combat at all costs. You know, the most recent stealth game I played before Alien Isolation was the Thief reboot, and that game is just abysmal. I mean, you can be crouching next to an enemy right 3 inches away from him, he's standing there, but oh, you're outside of his vision cone, so he doesn't see you. You know what? You know who doesn't have a vision cone? The frickin' alien in Isolation. So when you start the game, when you're choosing the difficulty, the developers recommend that you play on hard, and they say this is the way the game should be played. Now, on this mode, the alien will charge you and destroy you at the sound of a pin drop, which means the entirety of this game, you need to crouch and take it step by step, never breaking stealth, always committed to that vision. You get ammo and guns, but resources are so limited in this game that you are constantly having to think on your feet. You're constantly having to adapt to each situation depending on what items you have or don't have. And, you know, without spoiling anything, a huge criticism of the game was that there were androids.
Like, it's horrible. Like, the fact that I'm like dicking around with these androids, there should be no other human beings on this ship. There should be nothing but the alien.
The game just devolved into a shooter.
Later in the game, your solution to so many problems just becomes, well, I can just shoot it. And it almost feels like a different game.
And I say no. I say, if you engage those droids in combat, you know who's coming? Big Daddy Alien is coming because he hears gunshots everywhere. He's gonna devour anyone near those shots. Manual saves. Gutsy move by the developers. There are these save stations throughout the space station. You cannot save at any time. You have to get to these stations to save your progress, which means that it is entirely possible, and it has happened numerous times, where I would lose 20, 30, 40 minutes of game time having to get there. And, you know, it works both ways. That can be frustrating at times, but it just makes the entire game more meaningful. Having to progress through these difficult sections with the aliens, it's never auto-saving, so that tension and that fear is always palpable. Having to go into a room, again, back to stealth, being rewarded, going into a locker for 3 or 4 minutes when the alien comes by. He's not programmed. The developers at Creative Assembly have stated that they don't even know where the alien is going at any time. He's got a mind of his own. He's hunting you down throughout this entire game. And getting to a save station is a mini victory. Every time you get there, sigh of relief, you made it onto the next section. It's Alien. A lot of people out there are really passionate and feel this ownership of this franchise.
You weren't even alive when that movie came out. You're done.
I can remember being 8 or 9 years old, and my initiation to this franchise was my dad saying, "Hey son, I want you to watch this." Right, pops in a little VHS cassette. It's already queued up right at the spot. Bishop is there. Queen tail through his chest, lifts him up, retract tail, rip in half. I said, "Whoa. Dad, what is this?" I said, "Son, this is Aliens. I saw this at the Chinese theater in 1986. I say, "Oh my gosh, Dad, what? I need more. Show me more." So he's like, "All right, but I gotta watch them with you. They're a little intense." So I can remember watching the Alien trilogy with my dad and my mom once in a while. And then I can remember going into the theater before the dawn of the internet, before you knew things 10 years in advance, Marvel Inhumans, Phase 6, you know, hyping up movies 20 years away. I remember sitting in the theater, the Alien trilogy's over. Those movies are done. You know, this is before Reboot Central, 2015. All of a sudden, Alien Resurrection trailer pops on. I can't breathe because of the hype. My mom's like shaking me, like, "Alien, Alien." I remember, you know, there's always that moment when a trailer ends. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that looks good. Oh yeah, oh, I don't want to see that." There's always that like moment reaction. My mom goes, "All right." I'll never forget that. So going into this franchise, I'm already in love with it. I'm willing to forego and overlook and forgive certain flaws. But these expectations can run both ways. They can be severely negative.
Like the way they could have done this is instead of splitting off the crew right away, you go in with 4 people, there's
Right.
no one on the station, then those people die as you go, and then you're isolated. Like it's built into all the movies. Like that's how these work.
I know you didn't like Mordor because you're a big stinker about everything.
just don't like
But
the combat,
that
I'm
game
sorry.
was a lot better than people thought it would, and this game was not as good as people thought it would. So it's interesting to play with these expectations.
What I don't like about Alien Isolation is once you finish up the story, it's straight up like a rehash of something you've heard 1,000 times. Like the beats are so familiar. It's like they throw certain things in that game that don't make a lot of sense for them to be there, but are there because they're like, "Oh, people are going to be disappointed if we don't have this stuff."
And you can have your vision and your own interpretation of what you want this game to be rather than what it is. Lastly, imagination.
I think
Yeah.
you were nice to this game, Ben. I don't know if I would give it a nice score. I have played what feels like 3 to 4 hours of the game. I haven't spent a lot of time with that alien who's on the cover, who's in the title. It takes a long time. It takes a long time to get the tracking device. A lot of things about the pacing of this game that I was not anticipating.
This game, for the first 3 hours, give or take, nothing happens. Nothing, not a thing. You're walking around, you're immersing yourself in this world. You're putting characters to jobs that they have and their motivations. You're exploring this space that feels so real and it feels like a history. There were so many times when I would walk into a room like an abandoned bar or something that's been like torn to pieces, and I imagine what this space was like 5 years before this event that I'm here now, you know, building that world. Just this environment that is so true to the Alien franchise, just mist coming out of walls and noises of computers and droids walking by, staring you down. Just everything about this game made me a dreamer. It made me think of the past, the present, the future. I was thinking about the movie franchise and where this is fitting in, and I was just going along for the ride.
It's very video gamey. Like, I remember when I saw the thing, I remember you, I think, had talked about it, but like the door hacking mechanism, which I think is really cool, I don't think should be there because that's not a realistic, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't be in this universe.
I like the one that's the swing meter from Mario Golf.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
okay, no hacking thing would be this.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, this is just a video game.
They
Stop
keep
putting video
adding
game shit in it.
more mini games
Right.
as the game goes on.
Alien works because the world is so well structured and
Absolutely.
believable.
Absolutely.
A video game with all this video gamey bullshit on it doesn't work because it's garbage. It breaks the world.
I think that's the thing, is it just sort of felt like you were saying, a video game.
Right.
Like I don't know.
As games have looked better than they've ever looked and technology has made them more realistic, there's this weird expectation to compare games to real life. But I say, this is still a video game. This isn't real life. Use your imagination. And you know what? It's okay to not always be so critical. Let's just take our hat off for a minute and enjoy. Alien Isolation, an indie game with a AAA budget, taking risks. There is no open world to explore, there are no radio towers, there are no talent trees, and you are not leveling up, you are not creating your own journey or story or your own character. You are Amanda Ripley in a story that the Creative Assembly has crafted for your personal enjoyment, and I'm okay with it. Last week we were talking about death, dead franchises. People came out in the comments this week. They were out of control. There were so many passionate calls to franchises that need to come back from the dead. So we're gonna have a ton of comments from the viewers. Let's get started. Settle in. Derek loves Bushido Blade, one of the most enthralling fighting games ever made. Samurai swords, multiple fighting styles for your characters, and the combat synergy was fantastic. Lu Fei. This one spoke to me, Lu Fei. You know, I felt the Huber hype within this comment. Hubie. I was 14 years old. I only owned a GameCube. You know, I had a few games like Smash and Sunshine, and the future started to look like a dry, deserted wasteland. And then all of a sudden, here comes F-Zero GX being my personal oasis. No other racing game today has reached a level of speed and scale. Come on, Nintendo. They put 2 tracks into Mario Kart. They want it as much as we do. F-Zero for Wii U. Let's do it. Tall Silhouette, Tenchu. Little Brad Ellis join on that one. The game that made me a stealth buff needs to come back out of the shadows. Rikamaru for life. Blank 26, Star Wars, now is the time for Knights of the Old Republic 3. Gear, Mega Man Legends 3, one of the biggest betrayals in video game history. It will hurt me forever. Andrew, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, Packer Fan 89, Legacy of Kain, Helder Siphon Filter, Jake WK, Silent Hill. Too soon? Link's Malingering, Super Mario RPG, Collins the Shit. My personal choice would be Soul Reaver, Fagel, Beautiful Joe, Whammy Time, Spyro and Crash, One Last Word Croc, Dalgun Shinobi, A Greystone Dino Crisis, Chad Dark Cloud, Blue Pill System Shock, Edwin Zone of the Enders, Arcade 81 Legacy of Kain, Master Thief Beyond Good and Evil, The Canucks, Burnout, Streets of Rage, and Commandos. Let's bring them all back! GT Live, Wednesday at 6 p.m. on our Twitch page, hosted by none other than Brandon Jones. Also, Level has made a triumphant return with The Last of Us prologue. Be sure to check that out and look forward to episodes in the future. Also, today, Wolfenstein The Old Blood came out, and look for Brandon Jones' review right on this homepage somewhere. Alien Isolation, clearly a divisive game. Let me know your thoughts on it at Michael P. Huber or in the comments. I'm sure it's going to be a battleground. I'd love to hear what everyone thinks. So I'll see you there. You know, and I really don't know what's worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage. Time for Huber's Q! Here at Huber's Q, we swim in 6s and 7s. Viking, Battle for Asgard, also from Creative Assembly. You play as someone who wishes they were Ragnar Lothbrok, conquering settlements, leveling up, buying skills, and raining destruction with axes for anyone that crosses your path.